drawing the one jam and creating toolpaths to prepare to cut it on a CNC mill. For this drawing here, what we're going to be taking a look at is we're going to be using a rectangle pattern once we have one hole drawn in order to create the other 5 holes. If you take a look at this, on our drawing we have this one hole specified and the spacing between them. We're going to use our rectangle pattern tool in order to create these other 5 holes. Also, what we're going to be working on is talking about and learning techniques about profiling complex shapes, pocketing open pockets, and we're using the rectangular pattern to create the points for drilling. This is the one jam. To start, we're going to start with a fresh inventor screen. We're going to go to New, Standard IPT, and click Create. We're going to start with a 2D sketch, drawing icon plus the green plus mark. We're going to start as always on our XY plane and click Front in our World View Cube. Now let's take a look at our drawing. Our part has a horizontal overall dimension of 5 and a vertical overall dimension of 3, and it's extruded back 0.75. You can look at this video or you can go off of a PDF that is also attached. Going back to my part, I'm going to start with my rectangle tool from the ribbon bar at the top, and I'm going to begin as always at my origin and stretch out a rectangle from my origin. My horizontal dimension is 5. Press the tab key on the keyboard to tab over to the next box, and then type 3 in the vertical dimension. When you're finished with that, press enter on the keyboard and green check mark finish sketch. And then I'm going to click home. Next, I'm going to take and extrude to give this part depth. I'm going to extrude using the extrude tool from the top ribbon bar, and I'm going to extrude in the flip direction. This is the second button in, direction 2, flipped, and I'm going to extrude a total distance of 0.75. Once you have flip direction selected and 0.75 entered in, select OK. Next, we're going to take a 2D sketch. We're going to place this on our front view. I'm going to center this on my screen. And the first thing that we're going to create is we're going to create our open pockets. So let's take a look at our drawing. That's these open pockets that are here. They're 0.38 deep, and they have a width of 1 inch and an overall height of 3 inches. And that's equal for both rectangles that are in here. Go back to my part drawing. I'm going to continue using my rectangle tool. I'm going to come and I'm going to touch the top edge of my rectangle. Once it highlights, I'm going to click and start stretching out a rectangle. The horizontal dimension that I'm going to place in is going to be 1. Press the tab key. My vertical dimension is going to be 3. And then press enter on the keyboard. Next, I need to take a look at how far in from the side this rectangle is. So if I take a look at my drawing, I can see this dimension here is how far this rectangle is in from the left-hand side. And that's the same for the rectangle on the right-hand side as well, 0.5. Going back to my part drawing, I'm going to dimension from the left-hand side of my rectangle to the left-hand side of my part, bring this dimension up, and this dimension is 0.5, ½ inch, green check mark. I need to create this same exact rectangle on the opposite side as well. So I'm going to use my rectangle tool. I can start at the bottom if I wanted to. The first one I started at the top, this one I'm going to start at the bottom. Doesn't make a difference, you end up with the same result. Once again, I have my horizontal dimension is 1, press the tab key. My vertical dimension is 3, press enter on the keyboard. I also have to dimension its location from the side. So I'm going to use my dimension tool from up here at the top, dimension from the right-hand side of my part to the right-hand side of my rectangle, and bring this dimension up. To match the opposite side, this is going to be 0.5, ½ inch, green check mark. Now we're going to take and green check mark finish sketch in the ribbon bar, and we're going to take and extrude. Before we extrude, let's take a look at our drawing. From our drawing, you can see right here, we are extruded to a depth of 0.38. Go back to my part drawing. I'm going to use my extrude tool from the ribbon bar at the top. Click extrude. I'm going to click on my two rectangles that I want to have extruded. I want this to be extruded to a depth of 0.38, and I want it to cut. Once you finish that, click OK. Now, I end up with this error menu that create extruded feature failed. I'm going to click edit on here. I can see right off what my problem is. I have cut selected here, but I have it going in the default direction, which is towards me. I need to change it to the flip direction, still with my cut command, and then I'm going to select OK. There we go, that's much better. So if you get that error failure to create that extrusion, now you know how to fix that. Next, we're going to put our chamfers on last for when we chamfer these corners. But next what we're going to do is we're going to create a 2D sketch on our top view, and we're going to locate those points for drilling. To do this, we are going to use our point tool. And I'm going to click and place one point here in the top left corner in the center raised section. Now let's take a look at our drawing. You can see that this whole location is 0.5 down from the top and 1.75 in from the side. So let's dimension those. I'm going to dimension from the left hand side to my point, bring this up, and this dimension was 1.75, green check mark. I'm also going to dimension from my point to the top of this part, bring this dimension out to the side. This dimension was 0.5 or ½ inch, green check mark. Now, taking a look at having one point created, now we're going to talk about how to create all the other points. So going back to my drawing, I located that point 0.5 down from the top, 1.75 in from the side. And you can see for these other 5 holes, they are 1.5 inches apart and 1 inch apart going vertically. Let's try and do that here. We're going to come up next to our dimension tool. We're going to select our rectangular pattern. The first thing that it wants me to do is it wants me to select the geometry. So I'm going to click my point. Then I have direction 1. I'm going to click on my pick tool for direction 1, and I'm going to select my horizontal top of my part. Now do you see the green arrow is pointing to the left? I need that green arrow to point to the right to get that point going the correct direction. So I'm going to click my flip tool, and I want to have 2 of them. However, I want the spacing between them to be 1.5. And that places that other point over on the side. The next one that I want to do is my direction 2. So I'm going to click direction 2 pick tool, and I'm going to select my vertical axis. I'm going to enter in a quantity of 3, and I'm going to type in for my spacing 1 inch. And now I should have 3 of them going vertical and 2 going horizontal from one another. Once your screen looks like this, select OK. Now we have our 6 points in there when we only drew 1. That's using the rectangular pattern. Next, we're going to finish sketch. We're going to come up to our ribbon bar and we're going to select our hole tool. Now mine came in kind of weird looking, so there's some settings that we need to change. But if we take a look at our drawing and I scroll in down here, my 6 holes, they are a diameter of 0.25 and go to a depth of a ½ inch. So let's go back to our part. So I want a simple hole. I don't want any seat. So I have simple hole selected, I have no seat, I have a termination distance, and now I need to enter in my diameters. So my depth of this hole was 0.5, and the diameter of this hole was 0.25. That looks much better. Once you have those items changed, once again, simple hole, no seat, we have termination for distance, direction as default, and then 0.5 for my hole depth and 0.25 for the hole diameter. Click OK. Great job. Now if you take a look at our drawing, we have these fillets that we have to put on here. Chamfers that we have to put on here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 of them total. So if we take a look at this note here, all chamfers are 0.25 by 45 degrees. So let's go back and try that on our part. We're going to come up and we're going to select our chamfer tool. I'm going to change my distance to 0.25, and I'm going to begin selecting my edges that I want chamfered. I can move that toolbar off to the side. I can come in here and I can select that hidden edge when it highlights red. Or if I want to, I can click on my World View Cube, rotate this around in order to select those edges that are hidden from my home view. Once I have all 8 corners selected, I'm going to click Apply. I'm going to close out or cancel my chamfer tool. Now I have this part done. The next thing that I need to do is go up to the top, go to Default, and we're going to change this to Wall Paint Glossy Blue. I thought that other blue would work well, but it doesn't. Blue Wall Paint Glossy right here in our default material category. That looks much better. Now let's go to File, and we're going to go down to Save As. We want this to go into our H drive. You want to go down to the bottom and you want to select first initial last name 000. It needs to be this one that has the gray box with the green line underneath of it. You gotta find my right folder. We're going to call this 1 JAM, and we're going to select Save. Congratulations on creating your 1 Jam part. Great job. Your next step is going to be running the toolpaths in our next video.